Hello, 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 and welcome to another One Line of Code. I am One Lion, and you are all amazing. Happy Friday! We made it to Friday, and for some of us, that means, holy crap, it's Friday already? Week needs to slow down sometimes. For a lot of you, it's like, hey, finally, week took too long, or I'm really glad it's Friday. But hi, welcome in. I see many people. I see Stony Eagle. I see Good VJ. I see DC Aggie. Hello, hello, happy Friday. So today, I am not ready, apparently. I forgot to do some things. I suck at this. Let's try it again. Moment, please. Good VJ is saying I'm graduating in May. Congratulations. .NET Watch. Make sure it opens over here. One moment, please. So anyway, while I'm loading that and saying one moment, I could be talking. So I hadn't started the bot yet, but I am starting up the bot. At least I have the LLM running on the other machine, so that's ready for when the bot is up and running and listening to chat and ready to respond to things. But yeah, so today is Friday, and on our channel on Fridays we do Community Day. And what Community Day is a day for all of I'll answer your question in a second. For all of the viewers to be able to chime in on a topic or conversation that we're having. Typically, I allow you to come up with the conversation topics and stuff like that. There is one thing in the queue that we had from the normal streams throughout the week, which is that, of course, that one pain. Is that your name? Ideas and feedback. Yeah, that one pain was asking a question in Discord, and he asked it during a stream. It was close to the end of the stream, and I was like, we can get to it on Community Day if you want to look at it together, and I think they do want to look at it together. So if anyone does already have information that they can start preparing on the topic of analytics for a portfolio website, any industry insights on hiring you got? So on Wednesday, we had some conversation surrounding that, but the short answer is no, I don't. I don't personally. I don't really remember if anyone in chat actually made any specific recommendations. But yeah, I really don't know what the job market is like out there at the moment. What's available, especially like you're in New York, I want to say. Especially on the East Coast. I would assume that on the East Coast there's a lot of .NET related positions. Most of them would be either state or federal government positions. Chain stores. You're in Wisconsin, which is kind of still eastish. Chain stores. They typically have quite a bit of software development needs. Typical Midwest. And yeah, so maybe check around there. It looks like Restream chat is relaying correctly, so that's a good sign. The bot is up and running. DC Aggie is saying, I've been on a lot of hiring committees in multiple organizations. I can answer basic questions about interviewing and resumes. Yeah, that's a lot easier for me to respond to as opposed to what jobs are available. What's the market look like right now? Is it hard to get hired? What technology should I specialize in? All of those types of things I'm not great at. Okay, so I got that started. Start virtual camera. I am in the voice channel. And I will turn on camera so that you can see in there. All right. So here is information about Community Day. Today's Community Day is going to be a little bit different. it's going to be akin to last Friday's. So let me put this up on screen. There is this. The trigger warning that we had from last Friday, because I think we will be continuing the conversation as I mentioned we would do in last Friday's community day, except that we're going to be going into something that I don't think a lot of us are fully knowledgeable about. We have opinions on, but we might not have all of the correct information. We have a lot of assumptions that we're bringing with us, a lot of feelings surrounding it, which are completely welcome here. They are open. You are allowed to share your opinions. Please do your best to share them as opinions and not how other people should or must think, because your opinion could be that other people should think a certain way. But if you start saying that everyone needs to think this way, think the same way as you, that is not discussion. So let's try to keep it as a two-way conversation if we can. If we can't handle a topic as mature as this, then we'll just drop it and we'll move on to something else. But you guys have common sense. You guys are good. So we'll get into that topic a little bit later. But first, I wanted to know if you showed up currently, and we'll keep talking with Good VJ, who is bringing this conversation surrounding the job market in the US at the moment. Okay, so that's what the trigger warning is for, though. For those that can't actually read it because the screen is smaller, you just can't see the screen. The trigger warning is discussions will cover the evolving role of AI in software development. Specifically, today's is the ethics of training AI models. These discussions may bring up sensitive topics for some viewers. Please use your own judgment and take care of yourself before watching or participating. So that is your trigger warning. I'm giving you some time to decide whether you are capable of participating in this conversation or even wanting to hear this conversation at all. I don't want to force this kind of thing on anyone, and I just want you to know what we will be discussing. So AI and software development and the ethics in training AI models. Surrounding. I did do a little bit of research, but I didn't do a lot. There's so much to know about this and consider. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today, unless we have an expert, someone that has experience with how the popular AI solutions have done the training on their models, a lot of it is going to be opinion and interpretations of the things that I've read and anything that you may have come across. Okay, so back to Good VJ. He's saying, I'm seeing quite significant demand for .NET in the Midwest, Chicago, Milwaukee, Madison, mostly 5 to 6 years experience, and I believe most of them must be working on legacy products and not new innovation, I think. Yeah, so that is from what I can tell, from what I've heard from other people and what I have experienced myself, the majority of .NET occupations out there, .NET roles. Oh, that's cool. He's back at the Sunset Cliffs. Huh? Anyway, most of the .NET jobs out there are to maintain and add features to, and I think we said this on Wednesday, and add features to legacy applications that have existed for a line of business company type of thing. So line of business applications that just need new features. They don't want it modernized. They don't want it refactored. They just want you to make their stuff shine a little bit more. They want you to polish the poo. I'm sure there's a adage, whatever they're called. Let me get lurking on Valent's channel. Shout out to Science Streams. He's currently doing an IRL stream while he's in San Diego. Okay, And what else did you say, Good VJ? I somewhat tried Cursor AI, and as a knowledgeable developer, it kind of sucks in most places. So yeah, if you do already want to get started on just mentioning whatever comes to mind surrounding AI in our industry, please feel free. But again, the topic that I would like to focus on here shortly, maybe in about 20 more minutes or so, will be the ethics of how AI models are trained, potential things that come up surrounding this topic. And I will give information about my opinion first. I think what I tried to do on the previous community day was let you guys give your opinions, give your thoughts, give the things that you have encountered surrounding AI without being too opinionated myself. And then you guys were asking my opinions about various things. And I was like, I gave my opinion a lot during the prior regular streams, so I just wanted you to have a voice. But I think in order for this to be more of a discussion, it would make more sense for me to also give my opinion on various topics. Just because I give my opinions, though, does not mean that your opinion will be invalid or unheard. I really, really still want to encourage you to state what's on your mind about it, what's in your heart about it, whatever feelings or thoughts you have on the topic. DC Aggie is saying, when everyone is starting their career, they dream of building cool things and new tech from scratch. But the reality is most jobs for most entry junior positions will involve inherited code that you'll be maintaining or enhancing using tools and languages that aren't the new hotness. Greenfield is rarely handed to juniors in large organizations, and Greenfield is rarely tackled in large organizations because they already have all of the systems that make them tick. And they're like, well, they've been working this long, so why do we need a new system? Just make this one better. So I agree with that. Good VJ is saying, what I am seeing is AI burnout. AI is from trained to almost every bit all the world. Oh, okay. So AI is trained from all over. Like you tried, they are using too large data sets, I think. Too large of data sets, I think, is what Good VJ is saying. Now AI is being trained by content generated by AI. So this was definitely brought up, and I think it's a good topic of discussion if anyone has anything to contribute to that. So Good VJ is making a point that was brought up on Friday that we've had AI for so long that things being put out onto the internet now that AI is being trained on further was generated by AI. So is that an issue? Is that something people are concerned about? My opinion on that, and again, please state yours. Don't hesitate to say your opinion, even if it's contrary or in support of mine, is that AI generated content, if, gosh, how do I word that? There were like 5 thoughts that came up where AI generated content is still not quite good enough to be passed off as human generated content because of the things that we use, the tactics that we use to attract viewers or attract consumers of whatever is being produced. Does that make sense? I'm asking myself, not you. Sorry. So humans will still employ tactics that will change over time to get the desired effect for what they are producing. I want someone to view my content. Like me personally, I couldn't care less. The thing that I want is conversations that are engaging and hopefully they don't suffer the same issues as immature conversations surrounding the topic. So I'm looking for more thought-provoking conversations and not just regurgitated, rehearsed, rote stuff. So I'm going to do what I can to attract people that want to engage in those types of conversations. AI will just provide information that it has learned to, and again, humans are doing the same thing, but we do it in a very, very different way, and we adapt a lot quicker, in my opinion. But AI will be trained on data sets. They could be massive data sets full of varied patterns on how to approach different situations, but it will typically respond in a similar fashion to each situation. Most of the time, AI is trying to, the AI products, the AI solutions that are out there, try to be neutral, but they have their biases, they push their agendas and the agendas of the company that owned the training data and fed the data to it. If prompt matches word for word and topic is different, you can identify same writing styles. For that reason, LLM response is sounding inorganic. Hello, Foolish Snabble. So yeah, so that is definitely a thing. So with that statement, what I'm getting at is you will be able to identify AI generated content, as GoodVJ is also saying, but the AI content will be generated from different sources. So each AI solution has its own personality and way of writing. And there will be slightly varied. It's like taking 1,000,000 people and funneling them into, let's say, three specific AI solutions. And by solutions, of course, I mean the products that are out there. I'm not going to name them at the moment. We may name them later. Who knows? But I'd rather stay a little bit more general if I can. So we filter them into three models, three AI solutions that will generate content, because given that all 1,000,000 of this sample set of people that we're talking about are people that use AI to generate content. So they are all using AI to generate content. They're using one of three. So we really have three creators out there. But we still have the 1,000,000 people that are backing the creations themselves and putting themselves into it. So while the AI is being trained on its own content, it's still being augmented by human touch, human perception, human interpretation. But then, of course, there is the possibility that people are copying and pasting. And it's like, I don't just copy and paste from ChatGPT. I read it, then copy and paste it. Okay, moving on. I mentioned a product. There I go. I broke hearts already. Snubble says, speaking of AI role in development, where I worked all 10, yeah, so I'm interested in hearing what the result of this is. Where I worked, all 10,000 employees have been signed up for a Copilot vibe coding course. And Good VJ is saying, I know you did AI generate, but I cannot proof it as of now. Are you talking about me specific, or? Because the things that I have AI generated, I try to be transparent about it. The things I've AI generated are that lion image up there, the abstract images there and there. Oh, I guess the one down there is not abstract. And I think that's the same image. Yeah, so I think that's all the stuff that I'm using on the stream that is image generation. Yeah, that animated thingy next to Slipstream is a GIF from some stock photo royalty-free site. Okay, then Good VJ says, what the hell is vibe coding? They dance and sing while coding. And then Snubble's like, you just prompt yourself to success without ever working with code, I think. Also, we got credits for lovable.dev. So now we just vibe code away there as well. All right, so GoodVJ is saying, meaning as if I use AI to generate content, you know I did, but you cannot prove with accurate evidence that I did. Correct. And that's where one of the topics that we're going to talk about today comes into play. So not only the ethics in generating them in gathering the data set and training models, but also the ethics in using it. And I kind of want to leave the ethics in using AI, so ethical use of AI, to another topic. Today is mostly going to be our knowledge that we can share with each other, like actual knowledge, not just opinions. So facts that we can share with each other about how AI models are trained, especially the ones from the larger solutions that are popular and used often. Hello, Candy Dev. Wonderful start to the weekend. Shout out to Candy Dev. But yeah, then there is the other side, which is what is the expected responsibility of us as users of these AI systems and models and whatever else. I think that topic in itself can get very heated, and I still want to allow for us to talk about it. Okay, and as a reminder, if you are having trouble typing and you still want your thought to get out, as long as you think that you can keep it around 5 minutes, then you can hop into the Discord voice channel and voice your thought or opinion there. Like I said, today's and last Friday's community day are going to be a little bit different, where we aren't just going to have someone in voice channel by themselves kind of thing. It's going to be more like you present a topic, we all discuss. Someone hops into a voice channel, presents a topic, says their opinion on it, hops off, we all discuss. I present a topic, we all discuss. AI can be great, but like every tool, it can be hurtful, sadly. Agreed. So I think that is something that a lot of people can agree with. I don't know that every person can agree with this. I know that some people do hold the opinion that AI is only harmful, which is, again, valid, not dismissed. Snubble is saying the expectations from management I use AI more. Oh, is that I use AI more. The 3-day AI seminar they hosted for all employees, they really pushed on the urgency. And the biggest risk is not using AI enough. That belongs in this conversation. What are the implications that a company is pushing their employees to use AI to do the software development? Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Not to single out Snobble's company, the company that he works for, but I have concerns about that. Especially if this becomes something that is prevalent and adopted by more companies, where in newer job listings, I mean, we should probably even take a glance to see if this is already a thing, but in newer job listings, the ability to use AI to generate code, you write very little code is the expectation, and AI writes as much of the code as it can. But you have to be able to understand and interpret the code, but that's still ugh. So this is an opinion here that I do not agree with, and I don't know if you're saying it in a sarcastic way or not. Oh, I needed to respond to DC Aggie about my shirt. Okay, programmer shirt. Does that mean you know when to use me versus I? I don't think I know what that means. I don't know what that means. I can't parse it. Okay, so Good VJ made the statement that, again, I don't know if he's being sarcastic or ornery or ironic or whatever, but he says AI will make one employee do 3 employees' jobs. So the use of AI, again, is a tool and will only work as good as the person using the tool, in my opinion. You could get the best AI that we currently have available, that we currently have available to the open public, and feed it your issue. And I've been extremely impressed. Transparency, 100% clear. I've been extremely impressed with how Claude is performing, tackling solutions that I haven't had time to myself. So, for example, you guys remember the financial management tracker? I was like, give me some UI redesigns that look better than this. And it gave me UI redesigns that look better than it. Are they perfect? Of course not. But they give me the ideas, they give me the inspiration for how can I make my AI, my UI better. What elements could I look at as well? And it's pointing me to those things. The data import utility remake, refactor and remake came up with some pretty cool patterns. I don't know that they work. The tests all passed that it came up with, but it pretty much rewrote the entire data import utility through prompts and discussion back and forth, but it wrote, I'm going to say by this point, 92% of the code for the remake. I'm not anywhere near having that remake replace the one that we have in open source, but there are a lot of ideas in there that I could use. So the point is that while they are pretty impressive, you're going to take just as much time having the discussions with the AI to get it to do what you want it to do, that you will still be performing at the same speed or slower as you would if you just did Google searches for whatever problem you're coming up with, the design, the thinking about what you're going to do next. So I don't think it's at that point yet where it's going to make one employee do 3 employees' jobs. Okay, and then Good VJ also said it's like a monkey with a K. We don't know what's next. I don't know what that is either. What was the command to join voice? Exclamation point waiting. But since you already told me, I will pull you into the stream room after delay. After I say 0, I'll wait a couple seconds and then I'll pull you into the stream room. 3, 2, 1, 0. Remember to mute the stream. And it. All right, mic check, please, since this is the first time that we actually have you in Discord. You're muted. You're still muted.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Up. I mean again.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Crap. I can hear. Is that coming from you though?
Is what coming? Oh, hold on.
Hold on for one more day. I know that there is pain. While you're doing that, Snubble said slight snark mode off. Wait, because he said, and then we use AI to summarize the. Oh, dang it. Agentic? How far up did I miss? Not with the vibe tools, just vibe your way to success. Agentic AI, the AIs just talk with themselves to success. And then we use AI to summarize the email, and then slight snark mode off. I think the AI tools for product owners seems really promising. That allows the product owner to produce a real prototype instead of poorly digested thoughts on napkins. Yeah, but I like my thoughts on napkins. And then last 2 chats, and then we'll go over to you, DC Aggie. Good VJ said AI is good in coding, which someone has already done, but terrible in new innovation. Is there really new innovation though? Meaning make a new framework, train AI with documentation, make it code. At current scenario, mid-level developer will perform better than AI. Candy says echo, echo, echo. All right, so DC Aggie, you're live and on the air.
All right, hopefully no echo now. I apologize.
No
This is my
echo.
streaming setup.
This is your
So
streaming voice.
this is my professional voice. I can switch to my streaming voice if you prefer.
And then I wouldn't be able to understand you because
Testing 1 2 3.
you are
Yeah.
tested.
So I have very strong opinions on everything because I'm a software developer, and that's the nature of being a software developer. But especially on AI, and I have practical concerns, which I think is part of the discussion you said we won't get to today. That's
I mean,
on
if
ethical
you want to
use.
voice them, you can.
Well, I'll start with what you want to talk about, which is
Okay.
ethical training of AI on code.
Perfect
And
timing too.
I'll start with the end. I don't think it's possible to be ethical, and I'll explain why.
Yeah, you'll
the
qualify.
Yeah. So I think we've all played around with AI, and we've realized it has some potential, and that it still has a long way to go. That long way will depend on improvements in algorithms and the AI itself, but it will very much depend on lots of data to train on. And I don't think it's realistic to think that you could have a useful AI tool trained exclusively on code that is knowingly licensed for the purpose of training AI data. The only way we can even get to where we are now, which I think we would all agree is promising but not yet truly useful, is by basically training it on all code that can be found, with the idea that if it's on the internet, or if it's open source, or if it was put in GitHub and there's somewhere in the license agreement that you agreed to years ago before any of this was possible, some loophole that lets them say that your code can be used for this purpose. Even with that, we're not where we need to be. And I think the majority of that code that it's been trained on, the author of that code has not explicitly consented to their intellectual property being used for this purpose. And even if there were scenarios where code is, say, open source, and so the person doesn't have a problem with it being used for training, the problem is that you've contaminated your training set in a bit, because that open source code may require attribution, or that the produced code comply with the license of the original. And that's hard to do in a project where you're pulling in 2 or 3 open source things that you're going to use in your project. It's impossible when you're using a model trained on every possible iteration and combination of licenses and restrictions on those licenses. So yeah, that's where I get to the short version of the only way that AI programming in any near future could possibly be useful is to be trained on basically the entirety of all code visible on the internet and maybe more. And there's no way to ethically source or reuse that large amount of data.
The source as explicitly. Oh, actually, no. The only thing that I want to ask, or that I want to pose to everyone with one of your main points, is does an aspect of ethical AI, like ethical sourcing, mean that in order for an AI to be ethical, it must have the consent of the owners of the training data?
Clearly, I fall on the yes side.
Yeah.
of that equation.
Definitely.
But I know there are a lot of people that think, well, if it's on the internet,
exactly,
then it's some degree of public information.
Exactly.
And I can understand that to a certain degree, right? Like if you wanted to write a book or an article, and you consumed information on the internet and referenced or used as inspiration that information to produce your new work, um, I think that's a little more reasonable than saying I put it through this black box, and the black box removes my legal or ethical obligations to understand or comply with any of the restrictions that came from the origin of
So
the
I'm
data.
going to say then that your response to the question that I just wrote, is there a difference between bot scraping the internet versus a human doing searches using AI? The answer is yes. And that the primary one is when you do the search yourself, and of course you can elaborate on this or correct me if I got your point incorrectly. When you do the searches yourself, you are actually seeing the source. Well, we'll get into that. You are seeing the source of the information, at least the source that you're getting the information from, that you can give correct attribution to that source.
Right, and AI kind of acts, I think, in my opinion, as a black box and a scapegoat. Because if you take code from an open source project and you use it in a commercial project without attribution or open sourcing yourself in violation of the license, then you are liable for that, clearly. If, however, you use code produced that comes out of a black box, that into the black box went that stuff, and you can just say, well, I don't know, I got it from the black box, it absolves me from understanding or taking responsibility, for where and how I got this data. Um, I guess that's one of the big parts that I have an objection to, and that's the nature of it, right? You put so much stuff in, um, that you couldn't possibly reverse engineer or understand where it's coming from, unless you knew to start where it was coming from. So, um, AI that is producing large chunks of code to use in your project that's trained on the internet en masse, I think is very problematic. I think that if you had a local model that was trained on your corporate repos and just helped you understand what else is out there or the patterns you've already been using, um, then I think there is essentially zero ethical concerns there, so long as it is acting only on your information. I just am not so certain that it would be all that useful.
Feasible or
Yeah.
useful. Okay, so I want to read some chats, but I have a response that I would like to discuss further with you, if you're willing, of course. But Snobble said to Good VJ, a friend used AI to improve an API. The API was a bit clunky, so he asked AI to come up with a more ergonomic AI. UI, probably. It was surprisingly good at it. Or API. Good VJ said Grok AI is destroying other AI with slur words. I didn't know that. So again, when you are stating stuff like this, if it truly is just your opinion or your impression or your secondhand hearing, and you don't actually know this to be a fact, then please qualify it. Then Snubble said, sometimes I think AI will just take away programming from me. I get to go to meetings, do ops, do incident management, do project management, partner support, and define OKRs. If I recall correctly, Snubble, you said that you would like AI to do all of these things and to let you do the programming. And kind of the opposite sounds like it's happening. Hi, Napalm. Um, Good VJ says, do you think AI hype will go down after some time, like what happened with NFT? We'll discuss that after um, our my contrived situation. So I knew this was going to come up, by the way. TC Aggie. Snubble said, if it's on the internet, the copyright don't apply. Just copy anything. Yeah, that's a thought right there, and that's going to play into this too. And then Snubble said Facebook certainly thought so when they downloaded books over torrents to train AI on. Good grief. All right, so I'm going to capture these. Sorry that I'm capturing Napalm's sup, y'all. Okay.
While you're
So,
capturing that,
yeah.
I think I've covered my main thoughts on ethical sourcing of data for AI. So now I will
Cool.
subject you to my truly strong
But
opinion.
wait, I still have something about that though. I still
Okay.
have something about that. Your most recent point that I wrote down was the alternatives. Make local models train on your own data. At the very beginning of what you said, I think you mentioned that this is just highly improbable, pretty difficult to do. It'd be really hard to train models that perform as well or even perform to the degree that you would want it to, that's trained on data that you have only received consent for or you own yourself. Correct?
Yes.
So, my analogy to this, and this is like, again, trigger warnings all over the place, opinions, all of the caveats, all of the disclaimers. Um, I have been recently, and I'm sure this is common, um, correlating this with the movement to stop the or to enforce ethical treatment of animals in livestock, produce kind of stuff. So, um, the way that we are sourcing the foods that our grocery stores are getting might not have the most ethical of standards. It used to be you farm your own food, you raise your own meat, you know how it's treated, and this is akin to us coming up with our own information, maybe doing Google searches ourselves, which is borrowing from a neighbor or having your neighbor be the one that is producing the livestock for you. Then it moved into let's have these central places that are providing the majority of the meat for the entire world or the entire region. And that place is going to try to do what they can to increase the amount of livestock while decreasing the amount of effort and making the most profit. That's an opinion, a thought. That is like training AI, in my opinion, on whatever data is there. It's kind of the same ethical concerns where are you sure you have consent from the people for the animals? Are you sure you have the animals' consent to just put them in little square areas where they can barely move? And anyway, um, so the question was brought up, what do we do about changing the way that animals are treated? Let's say that we do agree that it is better, not necessarily it is right, it is better to do ethical treatment of livestock than it is to group them all together, make as much money as you can. The things that that does, and that we want to enforce that. What do we do to fix that? And the answer that I came up with, and I would like for you to try to apply this to the solution that you came up with or that you mentioned, um, which is we have someone out there make a farm that does ethical treatment of animals. So we provide alternatives, and they have many farms so that they can provide more food for more people. But that means that we're driving up the cost of the actual food itself because it costs more to do ethical treatment of livestock. They need more land, they need more feed, proper feed, better treatment, and whatever else needs to happen to keep them good. Man, this is a really contrived analogy. I thought it was going to be easier. I have it written down right here with the bullet points, and I'm just going too far into it. Um, so anyway, we provide an alternative. Providing an alternative means that the cost per pound of meat is going to go up by a couple of dollars or cents. I don't know how much it's going to be. Kurtzkatza has a video on this. And so the consumer will now have this more ethical sourced food that they can choose to eat and stop choosing to eat the food that is not ethically sourced. But their only incentive to do so is this is more ethical. It costs more though, and there is less of it. So that's where I'm at. That's the analogy. How does that apply to AI and the training of these models?
I think a lot of people think of it that way, right? They think
Yeah.
that they think of it as, well, it would cost more to not do this. or in a competitive setting, they think others are going to be doing this, and if I don't, I'm hurting myself. So that could be an organization thinking that. That could be an individual programmer, right? Thinking that people competing within my organization or competing for the jobs that I'm looking for are either going to be using AI or producing things with AI. And if I don't, I'm putting myself at a disadvantage. Um, but the problem with that, or with like cage-free eggs, or anything along those lines, is it assumes that the unethical route is acceptable in the default, and that choosing to do the right thing is a luxury or an extra. Um, and I think that's a false choice, and it also isn't where we are right now. Right, we're standing at the point in history where we can go one of two routes. We can decide to depend entirely on industrialized mass farming with disregard for the safety or well-being of the animals that we're
So
exploiting.
much more
Um,
elegantly stated than my stuff. Thank you.
yeah, and a lot of people are just thinking, well, if I don't, you know, raise my chickens and cut off their beaks and pack them in as tightly
Right.
as possible and force feed them antibiotics, that someone else will, and then I'll be out of business anyway.
Yeah, that's
Um,
a massive
and
point.
yeah, I think that's a I think that's the way a lot of people are thinking, and I think it's a dangerous way, and I think it's what they want, right? It's set up kind of to think this way, and this leads me into the second half that I know we're not supposed to get into.
So it no no no. So it did actually lead to it. So that's good.
But there have been two comments in the chat so far. One of them was, my boss expects me to be using this and wants me to be using it more. I'm experiencing the exact same thing where I work, and where I work has always been, let's say, upper management and the C-suite has always been very enticed by or dazzled by whatever the new flashy thing is. So if they're talking about it at an executive conference, then I can guarantee I'm going to be hearing about it,
Mhm,
and I'm going to be
mhm,
expected to do it. So they're
mhm.
pushing for us to go to AI conferences to get licenses for AI tools, so on and so forth. And I think there are two reasons that our bosses are pushing for that. Number one, because they're, whatever it is, everyone said everything should be cloud, so they pushed everything to cloud. In our organization, that failed so spectacularly, we lost our CTO and didn't get a new one. Our IT now belongs in the org chart under the same group that does like snow removal and plumbing. Um, but now the new hot thing is AI, so that's kind of the FOMO sort of aspect of it. But also, they're being told, your developers can be so much more productive with AI. Um, I don't buy that at all, but I think that they've bought it, and they want us all to be learning AI because they're worried that we're behind on our backlog of projects and what we can be done, and they're being told that if they just buy this subscription and participate in this program, that their developers will be able to be so much more productive. Um, and I do not think that that's the case. Could that be the case at some point in the future? Maybe. I mean, this is all setting aside our first part of the discussion, which is getting data into AI ethical? Um, and now the question is, once you've assumed that that issue is taken care of, using AI, can it be productive? I think maybe the answer is yes to that eventually. It certainly isn't the case now. Um, in fact, I would say that if you just let loose a bunch of junior developers with access to AI, they will be much more efficient at producing code. They will be much less effective at providing solutions or producing something that is maintainable. So it used to be, if you were someone who led a team of developers and you had juniors that were getting code copy pasted out of Stack Overflow, that code reviews were your opportunity to find out if that was happening, and it's not that it's a bad thing to get code from Stack Overflow. The bad thing is to take code you don't understand, to
And just plug it
put it
in.
in a product and push it out without completely understanding how it works, which means that you aren't certain it's doing what you think it is, and you wouldn't necessarily be able to fix it or enhance it if it broke or if it needed to do something slightly different later. And the problem with AI, I assume that some of my junior programmers are doing this already. And the problem with AI is, although it doesn't actually understand what it's trying to do, right? And we know this because if you ask for AI summaries of articles, it's very good at making a shorter version of the article, but it clearly doesn't understand the article. And that's the problem here: is a junior programmer will produce code that looks good, right? Like it won't have
Right.
obvious smells.
Yeah.
It won't
And
have
it'll
the
it'll
telltale
compile.
things that people who are code reviewers will look at and go, "Where did you get this? What are you trying to
Mhm.
do?" It will sneak past the normal things that would have caught junior programmers just copy pasting code they didn't understand from Stack Overflow, and it will get into production code. And then later, when that breaks, and you say, "Oh, you know that widget you wrote? It's doing Z instead of X," uh, and the junior programmer would at that point either confess that they don't know how it's doing Z, or they're long gone, right? They've taken a job somewhere else. Most junior programmers are only around for a while, and they end up going somewhere else, especially if you work in the public sector like I do, right? People come in with low levels of experience, they gain the experience, they become more valuable, and they move on because they have different goals, which is fine. But the problem is, uh, I am going to ultimately, in this scenario, inherit code written by AI, implemented by someone who didn't understand it, and is most likely gone now. So it
Exactly.
isn't
Yeah.
all that different from people who were taking things from Stack Overflow and not understanding it. It's just much more dangerous. It's kind of like the difference between a cold and, like a severe life-threatening uh,
Illness.
infection. It's the same basic principles, but it snuck past um, the things that we've had in place for so long to catch that sort of thing before it ends up polluting the systems that we have to run and maintain for core business stuff, right? So that's the kind of practical concern. I also have, sorry, I've got a lot to say.
That's
I
cool.
also have,
Before you go on, let me greet Clay because Clay just came in with a raid, and then you can definitely continue because I am interested in
great,
hearing this. Just don't lose your place. Try to remember. So, hi Clay. Thank you so much for the raid. Glad to see you. I was lurking on your stream earlier, watching you work on Epic Hero Game. I think we have a command for that. I am sure. Oh, I think it's just Clay. Um, I also saw that yesterday, I think it was, you officially released um um other game, your stream game on Steam. So that looks awesome. That looks interesting. Either that or it's on sale starting yesterday. Um, but that's really cool. Congratulations on that. But I hope you're having a fantastic time. Chat Ragdoll Racing. Thank you. So, yeah. Okay. So while we're waiting for Clay to respond, if you feel like it, Clay. So, I guess I should mention that for anyone coming in, what we're doing today is we're discussing. We're having Community Day, and during Community Day, we usually talk about topics related to software development, technology, and stuff. Today, I decided that we're going to continue a conversation we started last Friday surrounding AI in software development, and our community of developers. And today, specifically, we're talking about the ethics surrounding how AI models are trained and whatever topics branch off based on that. But it's specifically around the ethics of AI, the way it's trained, and possibly the way that we're using it. So right now on the call, we have DC Aggie, who is communicating his thoughts on this. So last thing I'm going to do before we go back to you, DC Aggie, is read off Clay's message. Side project is officially out, so now I'm applying what I learned into the main project. How are things here? I just told you that, so hopefully that's enough to let you know how things are going here. And hi, Duka Duka Duka. Did I actually remember to do the shout out? Oops. No, I did it again. We're shouting out Clayman, and Clayman's gonna be like, why do I keep seeing all of these things saying that I'm getting shouted out? We'll shout out Clayman Dev correctly next time. Okay, so I'm done. Back to you, DC Aggie.
All right. First, an opportunity to say what I usually type. Duka, duka. All right.
Duka duka.
Uh, so we've talked about my assumption that truly a guy could never find enough code to.
No, you're cutting out. What's happening? Oh dear. You muted.
Hooray! All right.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. So duka, duka. There we go.
Yeah, we got that part.
Okay, good. I don't want to miss that part. That's the most important part. So for
the AI detected a non-believer in Venom.
So yeah, I've doubts that we could have effective sourcing of AI
Enough
for
code.
coding.
Yeah. Oh, are you maybe getting muted when I talk somehow? Because it just happened again.
Yeah, that's strange. I have not touched my keyboard. So I don't know.
Oh dear. Well, I'll keep notifying you every time.
All right.
You
I'll
mute.
stare at my mute button while I talk.
Okay.
All right. So putting aside the ethical sourcing and my particular practical concerns with use of AI in the near term, and that's mostly my concerns about junior programmers using it in irresponsible or
Yeah.
ununderstanding ways, and that polluting my code base.
So this is still part of Friday's conversation too. Last Friday's conversation. So this is good.
But I also have a more philosophical question. So as you can tell, I have a pretty negative opinion overall on AI, especially LLMs. But there's a mental exercise that I've gone through, and I don't know how much time you spent with test-driven development, but in test-driven development, the idea is that your applications are the product of your business or your domain, and that your job is to collect requirements and to build tests that describe a solution. And then your solution is not as valuable as the test. Your solution is just whatever it takes to make your tests pass. And as long as all of your tests are passing and they're doing it in a performant and secure way, you've built what is necessary. You've done your job. So imagine, this is where we're in the philosophical part. Imagine that I offer to you a service where I don't talk to your customers or understand your domain. I'm just very, very good and very, very fast at programming. So your job is just to write the tests. That's your application. That's specific to your domain. And I can guarantee to you in very short turnaround that I will have a team of people writing code that will make your tests pass in a secure and in a performant way. But you don't get to see the code. I deliver to you compiled binaries. And I can guarantee that I'll provide this service at low cost in perpetuity into the future. So all you ever have to worry about is understanding your domain, gathering your requirements, and building your tests. And if you build tests that are good, I will build and deliver to you compiled code that implements your tests in a passing way that you can, deploy and meet your users' needs. So first question is, would you take me up on that? I don't know. But if
you're asking me, the answer is most likely not.
Right. But if your answer is yes, If your answer is yes, and I tell you that the way that I'm doing it is I've employed at an ethical salary large teams of developers who you'll never meet, or if I tell you that the way I'm doing it is that I have a large and very effective AI model that is private that I'm using to build code and deliver the results, what's the difference? And I'm someone who is, like I said, negative on AI and LLMs in particular, and I obviously have concerns about AI producing code. I can't come up with a good answer myself as to why, if I had chosen to buy this service from someone, why it would matter if it's one person, 1,000 people, or an LLM producing the results. Because the quality or style of the code doesn't matter, right? I don't see the code. I get something compiled that passes all my tests, and I've done my job building the tests to meet my domain requirements. So this is just kind of more the philosophical exercise, and I can't find a reason to say that if I had chosen yes to your offer, that it's somehow bad that an LLM is producing the results. So that's it. Those are my feelings or my thoughts recently on AI code generation. My biggest concerns on a ethical side are on the sourcing or the training of the models.
Absolutely.
My biggest concerns on a practical side are how you can use it in a way that is effective and maintainable
Right.
and that doesn't put your code base at risk. And then from the philosophical side, is there an ethical or moral argument against the use
Onus.
of AI? And I think there are. My feeling is that it's bad, but my thought exercise, I can't produce a reason to justify
Why?
that feeling.
Exactly. Yeah. I can certainly produce reasons why, and it's because in our shared society, so even beyond just US or English speaking countries or Western cultures or whatever, we have decided that there is an importance in recognizing individuals. And this is from what I can tell, this is a shared understanding among all peoples in our race. There is this idea of equality, and if you are human, you have certain rights. And one of those is that whatever ideas and thoughts and opinions you have are honored by other people, right? Is this, I don't mean to say right. I don't like saying right like that. Um, what I mean to ask is, would you agree with that, or would you augment that in some way? Because I'm not articulating very well right now. I'm a little overwhelmed.
I would certainly agree with that. I think
Okay.
there people over profit or over efficiency is something that I hope is a universal ideal, even if it
Yes.
isn't
Yeah.
universally realized.
Yes. Cool. So playing off of that, there is also this: in order for me to survive in our modern society, I need resources. Is that something we can agree on?
You've got me. I mean, I love my job, but if my pace check stopped, I'd have to find a different one.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so the fact that we need resources such as money in order to survive in our current society, because we don't have any systems in place for people that are either unable to work or not working by choice, to be able to exist in our current environments. So then the next thing is, all right, because of that, I would prefer to do things that I enjoy doing for a job, but in most cases, I'm going to be doing stuff that I hate doing just to make a paycheck. Sound reasonable so far still? Again, you are allowed to disagree with any of these. I don't want you to just blindly agree.
You're on a roll. Unless I speak up, I'm agreeing.
Okay. So that is leading to, and this is again part of the philosophical approach that I would take. It's like what is our common ground? What do we agree on, and where does it start to deviate? Um, so with all of these things in place, the thing that happened to humanity is that money then became the sole resource that we need to have in order to excel and exceed. On top of that, with the original, each individual has a right to be heard and um, validated. We found that in order to make more money, we need ourselves to be the source of whatever the service is that makes that money. Therefore, acknowledge me as being the professional in this area. So it's really, really shifting into a me focused, how do I get more money? I think I skipped a step in there. I skipped a step, but that's fine. Point is, this is where we were going. The step in between would be that having money, you're able to get more stuff, you're able to do more living. But that's also saying that if someone else has more money than you, they are doing better than you. And then it becomes a competition, which some people argue competition is great. Some people argue competition is, um, it drives greed, for example. Um, the the place that I'm trying to go very poorly is in response to, is it possible? Wait, your original thing that you were getting to was about AI. Your philosophical point. What was it? Remind me.
The philosophical question or the mind exercise was if if I provide this black box service where
Mhm.
you write the tests and I provide you compiled code that meets and passes all your tests, is there a moral difference between whether my black box involves employing hundreds or thousands of
Right.
developers
Okay,
or if
good.
it involves running an LLM?
Okay. So I think I was trying to say all of that to get to the point where I am this person that believes in order to um, have all of the resources that I need and excel at this world, I need to accumulate as much financial resources as I can, which means I need to minimize cost and everything, which means that I am going to take the cheapest routes available to me, which means using AI that was trained however it was trained, but gets the job done to um, to provide a service of some sort, as long as I'm making money off of it, as long as I'm in the net positive. So, is it okay to knowingly hire a company that is doing that? And what is the difference between that and hiring a company that is paying 1,000 people, 100 people, 10 people to do the actual work that produces the same quality of code of product? I don't know because they aren't producing code unless you reverse engineer the DLL. Um, that was loud. And my answer to that is I don't see the difference from between the consumer's perspective other than cost. So the person that's hiring the company, I guess, the product owner. And the reason that I don't is because what they are looking at is also how can I produce this product that will make me the most money? And I think that's where the focus is shifted to. Not that I agree or disagree with it yet.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment that that's the situation and the motivations. And here I'll take a moment to um, get slightly political and remind everyone that um, when your boss wants you to adopt something that is supposed to make you 20% more efficient, it isn't to give you Fridays off. It's to increase your quotas by 20% or
True.
to fire 20% of your coworkers and have you take on their
Mhm.
work. And although I am guessing or kind of struggling to understand and predict a bunch of the things that we've talked about, I have 1,000% confidence in that last statement. So keep that in mind.
Okay.
And with that, I'll sign off
Gosh.
with that little
It
bomb,
was
that little political bomb. It was nice. It was nice to participate
it was
in
awesome
Community
hearing that.
Day again. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. So I am going to respond a little bit more to that because again, I'm not doing a great job of articulating the things that I wrote down that might come up that I have a response for. I actually did make notes so that I kept on target, and like you heard, I was all over the place. Um, but one of the points that I was trying to get at was along the lines of what is the difference between utilizing AI as a tool that may have been trained on unethically sourced data versus, like, here was the analogy that I was going to use, and I'll try to keep this one brief. We have a game development studio. That game development studio says we're going to release the coolest, most awesomest, most fun, most marketable game. The the publisher says we need this game fast. We need this to be out there and easily accessible and easily playable and make us a lot of money. The developer says, well, I have these standards for the way that I develop. I'm not just going to take this cookie cutter off the shelf thing and then put a skin on it and then call it our game. So, what ends up happening is the game developer makes compromises to meet the publisher's needs, and they have a couple of choices. And I think this is where I'm going with it. Standards, when did you develop a taste for such luxuries? Oh man. I think this is where I really want to go, which is that the developer is now saying, all right, we will produce this thing, try to get as close to our standards as we can, but that means that we're going to overwork and underpay our developers in order to meet this timeline that the publisher wants to meet because they want this game out. And I am definitely not trying to say that publishers are inherently evil and inherently pushy and just want to make money. This is a contrived scenario, as always. Um, I'm sure there are plenty of publishers out there that are very supportive of their developers and they treat them well. And yeah. Okay. Um, so, what is the difference between playing a game that was developed by, or that was published by a publisher that pushed their development team beyond the breaking point and caused them to overwork themselves versus playing a game that was developed predominantly using AI to write the code that didn't really cost the team members much. In fact, there were very few team members because they didn't need them. They had AI to write a lot of the code for them or create a lot of the assets just to meet the publisher's demands. Is there a difference between those two situations? Are they both equally bad, where there is an external force causing the individual developer to choose to take shortcuts, to work more hours than they would in order to meet the demands of the customer? All of these questions for that scenario, and I think that would be the one that would be on like next Fridays. But I mean, we have time now if you want to talk about that. If I haven't been clear, I apologize because I'm really anxious right now. I'm really nervous. But the thing that I'm hoping to analogize is which is the less of two evils, because I think we would all have a feeling towards, if a company, software development in our case, game development or app development company, has a client that says, we need you to do this, and then your company heads are like, developers, we need you to do this so that we can keep our client, make money as cheaply as possible. the client is saying, we need you, software development company, to do this as cheaply as possible. Is it worse to overwork and underpay the employees that get hired to do it, that will at least be making money, or to use AI that may or may not have been ethically sourced? The training data may or may not have been ethically sourced. Hire less people, which means less developers are making money. Which is worse? Yeah. DC Aggie, and again, in your opinion, doesn't mean any of us are right or wrong. It's an imagined scenario. DC Aggie says, crunch, burnout, and the ethics of working more than you are paid for, or asking employees to work more. Which of those two things in the first scenario? Like there are obvious ethics. So I guess you would need to consider that yourself to determine which one is worse. So this is a game of which is worse. So you get to decide, when we're thinking about the employees, what your feelings are on the ethics of working more than you're getting paid for. I am going to give my opinion on that specific question. My opinion on that is, if I am having fun, and I've said this before, then I will put in extra hours without charging the client. I have done before, and there was some amount of burnout involved. Yeah. But there were a lot of times when I was just doing additional work outside of work hours without getting charged, or without charging for it. And hello, Aubrey, welcome in. Hope you're having a great day so far. Today is Community Day on this channel. And today's topic that we are discussing is we started off talking about the ethical training of AI models, sourcing the data sets ethically, and what its implications are for those of us using the AI models. Are there issues surrounding that? And I'm looking for opinions, conversation, not just stating, this is wrong, this is bad, don't ever do it. You can say that if it is your true opinion, but try to have conversation surrounding it. So yeah. Okay, sounds fun. Nice. Usually on Fridays, we have community days as it is. We normally talk about other topics like, for example, cloud solutions, how to use the cloud, architecture approaches. Do you use TDD? Do you use DDD? Do you use specific, what are they called? Named things. Totally blank. Patterns. Do you use specific named patterns? Do you share Uncle Bob's opinion on clean code and all of those things? DC Aggie is saying Uncle Bob's opinion on a professional's obligation to spend time and effort improving their skills off the clock are so spicy that why bother stop reading? I think it was in Clean Coder. And I don't often agree with Uncle Bob, but I'd say he clearly goes pretty far to make a point on this, and most things, says DC Aggie. So that's cool. Okay. So because I am being quite brave, I will state this again as my opinion. I think there is also a responsibility on developers to evolve with the technology. This is something that I have compared it to before as well. I love using analogies, but the evolution of technology. Are we still typing, like software developers? Are we still typing on typewriters to generate documents for, like, let's say that you're just a typist in a government agency. Are you still using a typewriter? In most cases, no. There are some where you probably are. But in most cases, I would wager to say the answer is no. Because the computer has made it more efficient and easier to generate documents. Printing stuff. Are we using the printing press to generate stuff? I mean, maybe newspapers are, but in a company, in an office, we're using printers. We're using this new technology that is automating the process of taking a large sheet of paper, putting it onto this thing with ink, closing it. Anyway, point is, we're not doing things the same way that we used to. We're doing things more efficiently in a different way. Sometimes it's less efficiently. So the use of AI, this is where next week's conversation would be better for this topic, because we haven't fully discussed the ethics surrounding what I put up here, the ethics surrounding training AI models. If we can, for the moment, put out of our mind the thought that AI, we could never ever source data sets for training AI ethically. Let's just assume that's the case. You don't have to agree with it, just assume that it is truth for now. Would you personally, so all AI is trained using opt-in consent, explicit consent, good sources that were validated. Every single piece of code that's put in there is validated. You have a way of attributing the originator of the code directly in the AI. It will cite it for you every single time it uses code. Every single time it uses any of them, you will get a list of attribution for every sample that was used in its training data. However that's done, just assume it's possible, assume that happened. Would you, software developer that likes to write code, that likes to put if, open paren or open bracket, some condition, close bracket, curly brace, all of your logic, would you use AI to do that for you if that's what it means to be a software developer? You talk to an LLM, you generate a product. And why? I guess. Like, yes or no is easy to say. And why? So if you are typing in response to that, I'll give you some time. I'm going to catch up on chat because there was a whole bunch of chat anyway. So I'm going to go down here first. So this was during our conversation with DC Aggie. These chats came in, and I also wanted to respond to that, but Good VJ left. Man, but we'll talk about that. So what if we train AI on emails? This is Snobble saying this, and chat sent by employees could be very useful. That sounds... Again, I would like to have, if possible, mature conversation about this, but I don't mind a little bit of humor, but I would like, I just want to keep it on topic. Unless you were being serious, in which case I would need to question your thoughts on privacy. Okay, so then GoodVJ then said, I tried Grok AI, talk Grok AI in the unhinged mode in app. Right. I just got amazed with options in eggs I got in USA, cage-free, semi-free, caged, fed organic, fed inorganic, this and that. Same with other meat, current hype train. Oh, current hype train conductor. Bit Gamey said, I prefer sweet and sour sauce to ethical sauce. Ethically sauced. And sweet and sour sauce can be ethical, can be organic too. Snubble said perhaps AI will do similar things like autopilots has done to some pilots in the airline industry. Yet another good analogy to where flying an airplane is not the same as it used to be. You aren't manually controlling the airplane. You have an autopilot that is doing the most of the driving, but sometimes the pilot does take over. The loss of airmanship. Is this a bad thing? Okay, so I caught up in those chats. What else came in? Good VJ left. We said hello to Clayman. Big Amy did an awesome archery. I don't know if you saw him hit the target at an angle of 85 with a power of 57. Wow. Resources. Quick, mute him. Snubble says, or just have enough money to. Oh, yeah. So this was during my talk about, people thinking that they need to just keep making more and more money. And I personally think that the issue of money resources driving a lot of our decisions is a large problem. This is, again, global, not just Western cultures. Although I can only speak from experience as an American. So, my opinion, if it doesn't suit you and you have a disagreement, please feel free to type it, try to be civil about it. Or drop it, ignore it, throw it out. Don't accept it. I am not saying this to make you believe me. I'm giving my opinion. I'll try to stop disclaimering so much. Standards. When did you develop taste for such luxuries? Crunch, burnout, and the ethics of working more than. Okay, yeah. So hopefully I addressed DC Aggie's statement question. Crunch, burnout, and the ethics of working more than you're paid for, or asking employees to work more. So, I guess if you are the company owner, then you would fall into the latter. Is it ethical to ask your employees to work more hours just to meet a deadline from a client? I'm a solo developer, single member LLC, so I have no problem with asking my only employee to do extra work outside of hours if they feel like it. But most of the time what I do is that I log all of my hours that I do work, and then if I feel so inclined, I will provide a discount at the end of the contract to say, you guys have been great customers. I will discount this amount, and that amount will be based off of, well, how many hours did I work additional on top of regular work hours. Okay, so then that's a tough one. Would you rather be exploited or unemployed? Sounds like why governments and laws exist, not to mention unions. Yeah, so those do play a big role as well. And then we already read the Uncle Bob stuff. I would never study work stuff off hours. Right. So that's a good point. So you can get paid to do training and improve your skills in the industry that you're working in. But if you have an excitement for a thing, this is, again, more opinions coming from me, so ignore this if it doesn't suit you. If you have an excitement for a thing, like software development, then isn't spending time outside of work hours improving those skills kind of like fostering a hobby? Isn't it just fun? And then I want to respond to Dukasoft's response to my statement. My question posed about if AI gets to the point where it's really good at software development, it's ethically blah, 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 and that's what software development turned into, would you do it? And of course, you know where the analogy for this one is, which I gave a couple, but there's another major one. So then Snubble said, I would never study off work hours, right? Never is too strong a word, but I very rarely look at work-related stuff after work. Yeah, so again, work-related stuff versus, just the thing that you're excited about. It just happens to be that I'm excited about the technology I'm using for my job and the projects that I'm working on. So that sounds boring to me, said Dukasoft in response to my question, so we'll get back to that shortly. Snobble said, I would like to talk to an AI like Claude over ideas, but then I write the code myself. I want to note this one down because this is absolutely where I would like to go next. The reason I like to train on chat and emails is so that I can ask AI who talked about ROT invoices. Now I spend so much time finding the right person in a huge sprawling org. Yeah. Okay. So yes, that is already a thing. I'm sure many of you who use Gmail have seen that they are like, you can use generative AI in your emails. Use generative AI to search your emails, but I don't know how it's working in larger organizations, if that's a thing or not. I'm sure Microsoft would push for something like that using Copilot, if they haven't already. Snubble then said, so it would be great if that could be sped up. So you're okay with using AI to pretty much index your emails so that they are searchable. And then you can have a conversation with the AI agent to get the information you're looking for faster. Okay, so DC Aggie responded as well, saying, maybe. Feels kind of like the thought experiment, except simple prompts instead of TDD tests. Right. I suppose the advantage of tests, and again, use it your way. If your way is to have it produce tests first, then think about it in that sense. So you are talking to the LLM for the whole development process. You're talking with the GPT, with the model, whatever it's the proper term for it is. I suppose the advantage of tests is that the AI can't fail so long as the tests pass. So that's awesome. I think that is one way that we could start using AI now. That entire thought experiment on you write the tests and you provide them to the AI agent that you're using, the AI solution that you're using, and have it write code that passes those tests. I think that would be cool. That'd be an interesting use of it. Again, my opinion. If you disagree, let me know and let me know why. Though test writing is code, and in TDD you could think, I would miss the code. Absolutely, I would. Though test writing is coding, and in TDD you could think of that as the true product. I like that. And then Snubble was saying loss of airmanship means that the pilot don't feel in control of the airplane anymore. Most of the time they don't need it, but sometimes the autopilot fails, and then what? I think some 737 MAX crashes might have been caused by pilots that felt insufficiently capable. But that is my speculation. It's fostering a burnout, at least for me. What was this burnout one for? Doing stuff outside of work. That's work related. Like learning how to use AI to do your job for you. Hello, Thindle. Welcome in. I'm catching up on chat currently, but we are on this conversation topic right now. I'm trying to go back to the ethics involved in training AI models, but right now we have delved in a little deeper to a thought experiment. I'm borrowing DC Aggie's phrasing here of if AI was trained using ethical practices, sourced ethically, all of the information it got was opt-in, consent, explicit consent, and professionals had a hand in making sure that all of the data going in is validated, is correct, is best practices, all of those things to train this model. Would you use it in a conversational format to create a product where you do very little coding and the AI solution generates essentially the whole product based off of your prompts? And feel free to express any feelings you have around that entire thought process to begin with, as well as your response to it. Okay. So at least for me, I need to do something else. Otherwise my brain might just spin and spin. I remember when I first got this job in 2017, the only thing I wanted to do was work on the product. And this was like 5, 6, 7 years of that. 5 years. 5 years of that. I wouldn't say that I got burnt out by the work itself. I got burnt out by management and the situations that happened in the office. But I wanted to work on the code every waking minute because it was so much fun. And then learning Blazor at the same time was just a blast for me. And I still feel that way with the products, but I have been purposefully spending my evenings doing music, doing other artistic endeavors. Um, but over the past week, I've only been playing with Claude. Again, transparency, being honest. I've only been playing with Claude in the evenings. Okay, DC Aggie says, I too would say there is a difference between maintaining your overall skills versus cramming to learn something specific that is a requirement for work. Okay, so the statement, I would like to talk to an AI like Claude over ideas, but then I write the code myself, says Snobble. So the thing that prompted this last Friday was throughout the week of last week. You know what I'm talking about. I brought up that I had tried to use Claude for the first time and I was blown away. I was very impressed. It didn't generate perfect code or anything like that, but after using it, I'm like, I can't publish any of the code that it generated anywhere because the second I do that, I am going to lose all credibility of being a software developer. I will be doing something wrong in other people's eyes. What do I really feel about it? So then I started asking myself these questions. And I'm like, okay, I have come to the conclusion, and now you're getting the ultimate conclusion of all of this stuff from my opinion. I've come to the conclusion that I'm okay with using AI as a tool to do work, to create a work product. Um, any responses you have, please feel free to share. Um, definitely do that. So, the other thing that I found, and this is also addressing Dukasoft's, it would be boring to use that perfectly trained AI solution that has, all of the good code that it's been trained on to do software development. I had a blast saying, show me, like, man, yeah, I'm not going to open it. Here is my code base. I gave it my files for my code base. Create documentation for this code. It created the project structure in a tree. It created the API documentation for it that says, here's how you use each of the methods in all of the classes. It generated some, what are they called? Planning documents for how to improve, and a project plan for converting this to the newer version that does the things that I'm missing in the data import utility. For example, the conditional, if you guys don't know what the data import utility is, but do I have opinions on documentation? Oh dear. Which you can at the moment type. But here is the data import utility. We've only done work on this on stream. Well, no, that's a lie. I've done work on this in my work product, but I did not use AI to generate the code unless the code that I found on the internet when I was doing searches for how to do certain parts was generated by AI, as well as using Copilot inside of Visual Studio. So those are my caveats for that. But the application itself is intended to allow consumers, other developers, to be able to have a tool where they can just slap it in their application and they have a way to go from Excel or CSV to C# objects, a list of C# objects. I don't think it's testable. I don't remember what state it's currently at. Are they strongly typed? Oh, it's because I didn't. The answer is maybe. Oh, come on. So this PC is about to go. This PC is having some issues. Actually, it's not going to go. It's just going to get reformatted. Okay, so it's a tool, provides you with a simple UI, drag and drop your file, get a UI for mapping from your file to whatever you defined in your code as your C# object type. So I mean, we may as well just go with the full demo because there is a screen that I am trying to get to that I was struggling with for months now. Projects, lab data import utility, sample import files. Okay, so here's I could have picked any CSV, but I don't have them lying around. So I'm using a sample file from the actual product that I'm making for the client. So you give it the file, it reads it into a data set with, in this case, since it's a CSV, only one data table. Then you have the opportunity to say, I want to go from the lab sample ID into the lab sample ID for my product, for my C# object, for my strongly typed object. But when I'm doing it, I also want to transform the value that's coming out from my input data set. So that's the whole point of this thing. There's one particular rule called the conditional rule, or conditional transformation, that says if this field's value or if this expression's value evaluates to this other expression's value, or is true or is null, or any of those operators that you're used to using except in UI form, then do this transformation for this field. Else, do this transformation for this other field. Which is cool. I got it to work. However, it still requires you to choose a field to begin with. And one of the things that's happening currently is it's evaluating the chain of conditional stuff based on the input value from the field that you chose on the previous screen, as opposed to the field that you're choosing for the if, then, else parts. So I was like, this just isn't working, because I need a way to be able to just pick, here's the field, here's the mapping rules that I want to use when mapping it to this destination. Or here are just all of the mapping rules that I want to use without picking a field. So I was like, let's redesign this, Claude. And so Claude came up with a redesign plan. Move over here while I go to Claude. I'm not deviating from the conversation, am I? I've already lost my place. I don't remember where I was going entirely. Thank you. Why that took so long? So Claude has these things called projects. And let's go to this one. Okay, the original thing that I used was the wave interactive thing that I wanted to add to the StreamBot. But then I was like, okay, what else can we do with it? Generate the documentation for this thing, give me a plan for how we can improve it, and let's start doing some improvements. Where are all of the markdown files? Oh, up here. So I'm now having a conversation that lasted about 5 to 6 days, and it completely revamped the system, created tests, all tests pass. Are the tests valid? I don't know. I am still in the process of reviewing them. It generated the documentation for the API, like literally with links to all of the individual classes and all of the, just everything. And it, what was the last thing that I was going to say that it did? Oh, it generated the README to tell me how to take this library and put it into my own use case. So what I'm doing to test it is I'm reading through that README as if I am a new developer trying to use this library that seems cool and see if it actually does what it says it's supposed to do. It came up with some really, really stupid ways of doing things, in my opinion. um, like I do like this Fluent API approach, but using string names for the actual transformation types, and it just looks really difficult for a developer to need to manage. Like, imagine trying to create a UI that will generate this type of syntax on the back end when the user is choosing how to map a field from one to another. I don't see it happening very clearly in my head. So I like the ability to, I don't know, configure it this way, but I don't think it's the right approach. It's a better approach than I was taking. Point is, in the process of doing this, in the process of having this 5 to 6 day conversation with, maybe 10-day conversation with Claude, I found that I was enjoying the process of brainstorming, reviewing the code, saying this is not working right, investigating myself what could be breaking this code that it's generating, and turning that into code that seems like it's usable. And then of course the tests and making sure all of the tests pass, and understanding the code by reading the tests. I thought that was very, very fun. So I had just about as enjoyable experience using this to generate code as I do coming up with the solution myself. That's difficult for me to say because I feel like I'll be negatively judged for that, but at this point, I don't want to have the same negative connotation with it that I have before. You are absolutely allowed to have your opinions regarding that, and I want to honor them and respect them, but I also want to have mine honored and respected as well. So that's why, from my perspective, I think the future could be leading to a situation where the majority of software development is communicating with some AI system that will produce the product, but you are still the designer. I mean, it could give you ideas and inspiration, as DC Aggie is saying. AI for inspiration or rubber ducking seems low risk, generally useful, but for generating an actual product that's going to be marketed and used by people, is that so different? Are you really doing a well, I mean, the answer is yes, but are you really doing a different job using AI to implement your solution as opposed to writing it yourself? And this is where I think the conversation would get a little on edge, a little heated. So exercise your judgment in how you respond, but I do really, really want to hear your responses. So in this case, DC Aggie, if I fed to this thing my test library and I said, generate a class library that satisfies all of the tests, I think I would have just as much fun doing that as I would implementing them myself. Again, that's a personal thing. And that just makes it seem like I just want to be lazy. And I don't ever want to come across like that, because I am not a lazy person. I say it a lot, but I am not. And that's where the stigma comes into play. It's my own perceived thoughts of how others would judge me on that front. Yeah, okay. So, let me look at this. Okay, so to read chat. I do like to chat with Claude myself. I prefer this over, for example, some advanced integrated IDE thing. So yeah, Copilot has been pretty good, but it's gotten in the way a lot more lately. the other thing that's happening is, and I think this was by design, the other thing that's happening is as I am utilizing Copilot, for example, within Visual Studio, I'm learning new patterns and finding different ways to do things that I wouldn't have done. And I'm using those patterns. But at the same time, that is also what someone said last Friday, where it's just kind of creating this samey type of implementation. There are very little innovations done because we're all now, what's the word, entropying into writing code the same way because AI is writing code the same way. Um, so there's another hot take that I'll bring up that can hopefully spur some conversation after I read chat. President Not Sure said, I could see that too, but in my opinion, they'd have to get a lot better at problem solving. True, but that's where the human aspect comes into play. The human is the one that is doing the problem solving. That's like, all right, some examples in here are, here's this bug that's happening. When I ran it and I ran it in debug and I stepped through the code, I saw that this line is the issue. Reevaluate the flow of data of this method and verify the functionality operates the way that we said it should based off of our specification. I'm wordy, okay? I use a lot of words when I talk to this thing, but it doesn't mind. Yeah, I wanted to find a conversation where we would have been doing that. Yeah, like we did the API in one day, essentially. The entire API. It did. Test failure analysis and resolution plan. So at example would have been me saying, I see what's going on with substring transformation. We fixed this thingy, which causes this other test to fail because they're conflicting. I'm understanding it as a developer, as the person that is trying to make this thing get implemented. I already forgot what my hot take was. Chatting with Claude. They have to get better at problem solving. Okay, DC Aggie is saying, thank you for saving me. Imagine this. You want a custom developed app. Oh, yes, you just reminded me. That does foo. Your current development team is either too small or busy or not skilled enough to build foo, or at least not on an acceptable timeline. You do, however, have a developer who can describe foo to an AI and compile a user acceptance tests and deploy the solution. And so you do. Hot take went cold. So the hot take is something that I'm sure has come up often, especially surrounding discussions of AI and creativity, is what currently is a novel idea? What is a new idea? What is a new way of doing things? And why are we saying that AI could not come up with a new way of doing things, an innovative way of doing things? It is actually possible, in my opinion, that AI could, in fact, come up with things that we would not have seen. If anything, it would suggest something in a different way than we're used to seeing that would spur our own creative juices, and we would think in a different way. So there is benefit to be had in allowing AI to come up with ideas, even if it's just the standard way of doing it. Maybe you haven't come across the standard way of doing it, and now that you have, you're thinking of this other further way of doing it. Oh, DC Aggie had more to say. Okay, so this is after your small business, your company with few employees, too busy employees, etc., had their user acceptance tests compile person get the solution put together using AI. So again, all of this is why it probably should have been a different conversation, but all of this is assuming that AI was ethically sauced, the model training for the AI was done ethically, blah, 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 blah. Then, after foo is used in production for some time, a major flaw is found. Had you built foo in the old way, you'd probably understand the solution and be able to create a fix. However, if foo is large and complex and handed to you, how confident are you that you can support it? Who is responsible for any harm created by foo? Now that you say that, DC Aggie, this is what I think is formulating the basis of most of my opinions and value judgments surrounding AI. My favorite thing to do is to take an existing code base and make it better. Untangle the spaghetti, clean it up, and understand every bit of it. So, in the scenario that you're talking about, it wouldn't really be possible because the team is already overtaxed. And I would make the assumption, based off of your previous setup for this scenario, that the team wouldn't have time to go through, learn the code base, figure out what's wrong. However, as we have demonstrated with Claude, for example, one thing that I tell Claude to do during our discussions is to keep a project log. And that project log is a document that says, here's what we did, and here's where we're going next. I tell it to keep the project structure up to date. I don't always in this case, I'm giving it the entire library as C# files. But what I would do after I'm done with the core library, after I'm sure it works and does exactly what I want, remove all the files. The only documentation it would have would be the API and the project structure document that tell it what is this project, how do you set it up, and what classes and methods are in there. Then, if there is a problem that arises, then I would describe that to Claude and say, here's this situation we're running into. Where do you think it could be caused? If I can't find it myself. First thing I would do is find it myself. But if I can't understand the code or find it myself or don't have time to, I would ask Claude, where do you think this could be? Let's look at this together. Here are the files for where you think it would be. Please work on that. I'll go over here and I'll work on my other code that I'm doing by hand. And yeah, I'll stop talking for a bit. So if you're typing, you might be able to think. Bleh. Puke Amy, puke is soft. Actually, he said puke ass oft. Oh gosh, it's a lovely day for an archery practice, but I regret to inform you that this try didn't hit the target since the arrow flew over by quite a bit. But take heart. Take heart from this as you've overcome many other challenges. Your score for this shot is 0 and gives you a running score of 0. It's a reminder that practice makes perfect. So let's relaunch. Maybe next time the arrow will sail in just right. The streamers and we all support you. Thank you for the shout out to Big Gamey. Okay. Again, I do want to give you enough time if you do have a response to anything that I just said. I feel very odd and weird saying it out loud. And yeah. I gave my opinions on the use of AI as it is today. I really, really wanted to work up to that, but I always get ahead of myself. The originating point was supposed to be, what do we think about how AI models are trained? And so I did do some research on that. I do have information about how AI models are trained and how they source their data in a lot of cases, including very specific data sets like Kaggle, for example, or I'm assuming it's pronounced Kaggle. It's spelled Kaggle, Kaggle, Kaggle. And I'm pronouncing it like Kaggle because it's funny. Do you like funny? The Candycopter. AI generated video has a major problem with continuity, and I find that very limiting. Yeah, So the use of stuff like that, definitely. Um, and again, continuity. So we have mechanisms, and I think they're only going to get better to provide enough context to an AI system that you can pick up where you left off. That's one of the approaches that I learned to do with Claude, which is keep documentation of project structure, what the application is supposed to do, and what we recently did, where we're going next. And it usually is able to pick up. It's over 9,000. It's usually able to pick up from where we left off on the conversation pretty easily and not repeat itself, not make the same mistakes. But hi, Bob Ross. Candycopter brought a candy out of lurked. Aw, but we are ending soon. I just wanted to give people enough chance to respond to that last take on what is originality. Can we be truly called to be original? The other thing that we didn't touch on as much as I wanted to, that we may be able to save for next Friday if you want to continue this conversation, or Discord, or just let me know if you actually are interested in talking about this, is what is the difference between an AI, and we talked about it a little bit thanks to DC Aggie bringing it up. What is the difference between AI? I have it written down so I don't misquote it. What is the difference between a bot scraping the internet to get that data set of knowledge versus a human doing the searches using AI? And a point was brought up that you doing the search yourself and getting the results, you're able to see that source that you're getting the results from. Speed could be another thing. Yeah. The question that would arise is it ethical to use AI that has been trained on data that was accumulated from web scraping to write papers, to write code without attribution, without the responsibility of attribution, versus you doing it yourself, and then the onus is put on you to do proper attribution, which you typically wouldn't. The only thing it is more forgiving of you because you don't know where the source actually came from. So anyway, that would have been a thing. I would not use it for that. Too risky. I don't know what to do with my 200,000 points. Try archery. You could do archery 200,000 times. High C Films. Okay, but this is the end of Community Day. Shout out to Dukasoft. I remember today. Dukasoft is an amazing and wonderful person. You see him around everywhere. He's a great mod, lively fellow, very fun, very enjoyable to hang out with. But specifically, he does stream on occasion when he's able to get good footage, has time to edit that footage, but he streams drone cinematography. He streams drone footage that he takes of his local areas around. It's just really, really, really good scenery. Yeah. And he plays good music and has fantastic conversations over in his stream. So follow him to get notified when he goes live next. I don't know what word I used. But DC Aggie says, that was a good community day. And it was very much thanks to you. And I again, I'm not trying to say that in any kind of negative light. I really am thanking you for that. You contributed quite a bit, and I really enjoyed the conversation. And yeah. Okay, so we're gonna end here. I will be lurking on Balint's stream, but we did raid him last time he was IRL streaming, which was, he's been doing it all this week. He did it on Wednesday and yesterday and wait, did he do it on Wednesday? Monday. He did it on Monday when he was in Alaska, and then he did it on yesterday and now today. But again, if you have any further conversation about this, I'm gonna do the normie thing and say, feel free to drop a comment in YouTube on the YouTube video, and or hop into our Discord and post in the relevant channel. um, and continue the conversation there. No guarantees you're going to get a response immediately, but I will most likely respond to any continued conversation about this. But right now, I'm going to go back to work, and I literally do mean work. I will be writing code myself. I do, contrary to what it sounded like I was saying during the stream, I do absolutely love writing code. I will miss writing code if we ever get to the point where the software development landscape changes before I retire, before I stop writing code. Where the software development landscape changes to where we are just talking to an AI agent that's doing the actual code writing. But that was the other point that I meant to make. We are already doing that by writing code that a compiler can understand and turn it into bytecode, turn it into machine code. So we aren't actually programming the way that we used to program. We aren't doing things mechanically. So we've already modified what software development looks like already. This seems like a logical next step to me. I think we would all benefit from embracing some aspect of it, working together to make it more ethical and responsible, and using it responsibly together as well. Those are my closing comments. We could raid Big Gamey. Awesome. We were gonna raid Sorcery Story. But we have a request / suggestion to raid Big Gamey. Yes, I didn't think he was going to stream today. I know he had it on his schedule to stream, but we are absolutely going to. As long as you're flexible ethics, as long as you have flexible ethics, it's already ethical. Right. And I just want it to be more so. Something more along the lines of what I would. The thing that makes me feel shame saying that I'm using AI to generate code. I would like that to be gone. And it's not just my feeling of having shame towards using AI, but the reason that I feel that shame, which is the way that the AI models are currently trained. That's the source of all of my issues with it. Okay, but yes, we're gonna raid out to Big Gamey. Yeah, and that's the kind of thinking that I don't want for myself. Again, you can have that, you can joke about it, but I'm serious about it. I don't like the thought of everything leads back to money. That would put me on my soapbox a little too easy. So I'm going to do my best to just leave it there. Yeah. The only thing that I will say about it, without getting too high on my soapbox, which I will be stepping up to it a little bit, so feel free to not listen to this part, is I the highest value that I have is integrity. And doing things in a way where you are being manipulative violates that integrity, that sense of integrity for me. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it at that. We can continue the conversation though. I'm not shutting down the conversation if there is one to be had. Feel free to comment on the YouTube video. Feel free to drop messages in Discord. We can even have a conversation on X if you want, so that it can be indexed and training a model that will learn to talk like us. Okay. But thank you all. You all had very, very great things to contribute, great things to say. I appreciate your conversation. And I will be back again on Monday for normal stream. And then the week after, I am pretty solidified that I'm going to do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday streams after next week. So I'll say more about that on Monday. Ciao for now. I didn't even get very much waving in. I was talking too much. Okay, ciao.